Vous êtes-vous déjà demandé à quoi rêvent les abeilles? Quel rôle secret jouent leurs mâles? Ou quelle relation elles entretiennent avec les fleurs? Dans sa ferme de l'État de Washington, aux États-Unis, Jacqueline Freeman a noué avec ses ruches une connexion intuitive qui la dote d'informations parfois étonnantes sur l'organisation des abeilles et leur niveau de conscience. Rencontre en France, au cœur de la Sologne, sur les terres de l'apiculteur biologique Nils Aucante et de son père Pierre.
Oh, many years ago, before I was interested in bees, I remember taking a class and I was at a place for a few weeks and they had a big swimming pool. And every time I went for lunch, I would look in the pool and there would be little bees that were drowning in the pool. And I would go over with a stick and, just fish them out and get them on there and, carry them over and put them on safe, dry land. I was there for 2 months and I did that every single day. And I wasn't yet interested in bees, and I remember thinking to myself, what is that about? We bought our farm in the Pacific Northwest in the US about 16 years ago. A friend of mine just gave me a hive of bees. It's a farm, we should have bees here. But I didn't know at the time how much I was going to fall in love with them, that they would become a central passion in my life. When I first went to be around the bees, I would dress up fully in the suit, which protects you from being harmed by bees, from being stung. But I found that the more time I spent around them, especially dressed up in my bee suit, they really didn't care. And I realized that they meant me no harm. So eventually I, piece by piece, took off my bee suit, my gloves, my boots, my hat, all of the accoutrements that I had to being a beekeeper. Finally, not too long after, I would be sitting in a short-sleeved t-shirt and a pair of shorts next to them, not thinking twice about it. And they were very wonderful. They'd come out and they'd land on me and walk around a little bit, and it was a sweet way to develop a connection with them. It's funny, but they permeate my thoughts, even when I'm not around them. I wake up in the morning and sometimes it's the first thought in my head is something they want me to know. I feel very blessed to feel that connection come from them, not just from me looking to them. I went to a conventional bee school, and in that I learned many things that I knew instantly I was not going to do. I was not going to kill my queen and replace it every year. I was not going to feed them sugar. I was not going to do things that I felt were not really positive things to do with bees. But when I started with my bees, it was before the internet. It was before there were books written on alternative approaches to this. I had no one to learn from but the bees themselves. So I would go and sit next to them and I would say, I want to do the best I can by you, but you're going to have to tell me what it is that I should do. And it was just sort of like a mantra. I didn't expect an answer. And then one morning, after I'd had bees about 6 years, one morning I woke up, and just in that place between where you're asleep and awake, I had this information come through, like someone speaking. And I grabbed my pad and paper next to the bed and I just started writing it down. And it was information about the bees that I had never heard before or read anywhere or heard anyone speak of. I just had a particular fragment of a dream about one particular hive on our farm. And I woke up and I thought, oh, that's interesting, that's funny. I wonder, why did I dream about that hive? And then I got dressed and I walked up in the field. And in the night, the wind had blown the cover off of the hive, and the hive was about to get very wet. And I realized that was probably the bees calling out to me saying, we need some help up here. Could you come up and check on us? So I did, and they did. One time I had been pruning grapes with an elderly friend, and we pruned all day, and my hand was so sore the next morning. I must have done this motion 1,000, 2,000 times. And one little bee came out. She was going to do a cleansing flight in the winter. she stopped, and instead of flying off from the hive, she turned around and looked at me. And I put my hand down, and she crawled up on my hand, and she bent down and she stung me. And I thought, no, why would she sting me? Why would she do that? And then she flew off, and then I noticed about 20 seconds later that all of the pain I had in here from the sting was dissipating. And within a minute, it was completely gone. So she stung me right on someplace that released the tension, the stress that was in my hand. And I felt, she could have stung me over here and it wouldn't have made a bit of difference, but she stung me exactly where it did make a difference, and it healed me. I think one of the most important things they told me about was the drones. Quite often, beekeepers will cut their comb out, cut their brood comb out where their eggs, the eggs of the drones are, and throw it away. And that way it conserves honey. The drones aren't in there, so they don't eat it. And if they have a mated queen, they think they don't need any drones for anyone else's queens. And what the bees explained to me was that the drones have many roles beyond that. One of the things I had noticed was if you ever cut the drone brood out and throw it away, that the queen will immediately go and make some more drone eggs. So there's obviously some reason she wants them, and the hive wants them inside the hive. But a drone can go from any hive into any other hive, no matter what he smells like, whose queen he smells like. There's only 3 places you could go inside a hive. You go where the pollen is, you go where the nectar that's turning into honey is, or you go into the nursery where the baby bees are. Now, if you think of strangers coming into your home, that's probably the last place you would let the stranger go. But a strange drone can come in and immediately they walk to the nursery. The drones actually, they have a different tone, a different vibration, a different sound to them. That they make a vibratory sound that conveys to the baby bees as they're being born what their history is from their past and what their future is, where they're going to go. So every baby bee that's waking up into its new life is coming out into this song that's telling them all that information. And when they go by and see a flower, they see more than the color. They also see its readiness. They see a vibration that this is the moment now to come and take the nectar and the pollen from it. And they also have a communication with the flowers. Flowers are planted, but a bee can land here and learn what are the minerals that are within that plant. If, say, this plant has used up a lot of the minerals that are in this soil and it needs to go in that direction, the bees in their pollination can help the plants to feel that this is a good direction to go in. The bees go out to the field, they forage from the flowers, they bring back the nectar, they work together to process that nectar and turn it into honey. And it has the sounds of the flowers and the feeling of the industry of the bees working together to make it. It provides not only a physical nourishment, like a food, but also a spiritual nourishment that feeds the soul.
Les abeilles sont en danger. Alors qu'on les sait essentielles au processus de pollinisation, donc à la fertilisation des récoltes et à la survie des espèces végétales, elles sont aujourd'hui décimées par les pesticides, affaiblies par les OGM et fragilisées par la monoculture. En Sologne, pour faire face à la disparition de l'abeille noire locale, Pierre et Nils Aucante ont participé à la création d'un conservatoire installé en forêt de Chambord.
Pour nous, l'abeille locale, c'est l'assurance survie. Peut-être pas pour produire, mais pour conserver déjà les acquis génétiques de ces milliers et millions d'années. Quand toutes les autres abeilles seront mortes, on espère pouvoir que celle-là, elle va pouvoir survivre longtemps dans des milieux protégés. C'est pour ça qu'on en a amené à Chambord, qui est une île. C'est un isolat de 5000 hectares. Et à côté, il y a encore une forêt qui est contrôlée de 3000 hectares. Voilà. On a un îlot qu'on est en train de repeupler parce qu'il n'avait quasiment plus d'abeilles.
on essaie qu'elles se sentent bien. En fait, je me sens plus éleveur d'abeilles. On élève des abeilles et si elles sont bien, elles vont faire du miel.
Ouais.
On est tous quelque part des enfants face à une ruche, quoi. Et on le reste tout le temps, toute sa carrière, qu'on soit apiculteur ou pas. C'est-à-dire qu'on apprend constamment. Là, on échangeait des choses avec Jacqueline. Voilà, on a des phénomènes dans des ruches. Alors les livres disent que ça marche comme ça, et puis un jour on se retrouve face à une situation où en fait c'est pas du tout ça, quoi. Il n'y a pas deux ruches pareilles, il n'y a pas deux reines identiques. Il y a des vraies différences de comportement entre les abeilles.
L'activité d'une ruche, quand on l'approche, quand on ouvre le son qu'elle produit, l'odeur qui vous saute au nez, et puis l'activité, la façon dont elle se déplace, dont ça grouille, le bruissement, tout ça c'est du langage des abeilles. L'apiculteur il intègre ce langage et puis il soulève un petit peu et tout va bien. On ne touche à rien. On écoute le message des abeilles, on leur passe des messages qui on va vous soigner, on va s'occuper de vous. Ça passe dans les deux sens. Et si elles voient aussi un apiculteur agité qui fait elles vont dire mais il est complètement cinglé celui-là, c'est pas possible.
When I think of myself prior to having relationships with bees and now that I have relationships with bees, I have learned so much about how to be a better human being. For one, they never put their personal needs first. Now, I'm a human being, and my personal needs feel pretty important to me. I broke a comb inside a hive one time. I opened it up. I knew it was too warm to be in there, and I knocked a hive off, and it broke, and it fell down, and it fell just about an inch. But when it hit the bottom, it broke open the honey, and the honey just started oozing out. And I felt like an idiot for doing such a stupid thing. I made a mess inside their hive. But every bee in there just turned around from whatever task they had, and they went, oh, spilled honey. And every bee immediately changed tasks and went to clean it up. There was no guilt, there was no blame, there was no, what a stupid idiot she is. There was none of that. My home life would be very different if that was my attitude. I've tried to adapt that too, as has my husband, to say, you know, instead of being upset about something that didn't go the way we wanted it to do, to say, well, let's just go fix this and do it together. And that's made my marriage much happier too, because we do that now. When they move into a new hive, they're going to build comb, and the comb is, honeycomb. It will be where they lay the eggs. Another part of it will be where the pollen gets laid to be stored. It will be where the nectar is turned into honey, and they'll build different combs within the hive. The bees will come out and stretch themselves across the top of the bar, and then these other bees will hold on to their little feet and they'll stretch out, and they make a whole pattern like a rug of all these bees holding on to each other all the way down. So they're measuring. There may be 40 bees across and 20 bees down. And when they're doing that, they're giving the hive a measurement of how many cells across they should build and how many cells down. Those bees that are the measuring bees are not the bees who build. There's something that they measure that then is conveyed to the other bees that are going to build the comb. The bees can even start at the opposite sides of the comb and start building this way, and when they get to the center, those little hexagonal cells will meet perfectly. How do they do that? I find that amazing. If I was to build something with my husband and he started on one side and I started on the other, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't match up perfectly. Before I go to work with a hive in any way, I tell them, when I'm way over there, I say I'm coming to see you, or I may say I'm coming to see you tomorrow morning. You wouldn't just walk into someone's house unannounced. So I think that's part of the acknowledgement that this is a live, present, sentient being, and I approach them with love in my heart and let them know that I feel that towards them. If you're not a beekeeper and you want to help bees, I think one of the most important things is to support agriculture that doesn't have chemicals in it. The chemicals have terrible effects on bees and all of the environment. And then also, honey, I don't think honey needs to be eaten the way that it is. You know, it's food made in prayer. And I think of it more like, maybe we should treat honey more like a sacrament rather than just a sweet dessert. And one more thing people can do too, if you just want to help bees, then you could also set up a watering station. Water, especially in the dry times of year and even in winter, can be really important to bees, and they have to travel a long way to get it. So you could set up a bird bath in your front yard, put some stones in it so they can walk down to the edge of the water and sip it up, and just put it outside somewhere right on the edge of shade. The bees will fly over and they'll see the reflection of the water. When you watch them, you can't help but have your heart open up to them, see them just, they're so sweet, they're so wonderful.